Pronto. Pessoal, boa noite, tudo bem com vocês? Muito obrigado pela presença em mais um webinário da Jornada de Precificação Estratégica da Doc Pricing. Eu vou pedir aqui para o Júlio colocar a gente em tela inteira. Júlio que está ajudando a gente no backstage. Pronto, beleza, pessoal, tudo bem? Boa noite. Obrigado pela presença. Hoje é um dia muito especial para a gente. Esse é o 18º webinário dessa jornada que nós começamos com vocês no comecinho de maio, né? Já foram 17 webinários com executivos da indústria, executivos do varejo, executivos de empresas prestadoras de serviço, que a gente trouxe aqui para discutir tudo que diz respeito a como que a dinâmica de preços pode estar sendo afetada por esta pandemia. Foram 17 webinários, foram 4 semanas, e hoje a gente teve a oportunidade de trazer para vocês aqui um convidado especial, na verdade um grupo de executivos, que são todos convidados muito especiais para a gente, que são de uma empresa prestadora de serviços, de soluções de tecnologia. Deixa eu falar para o Henrique também se apresentar um pouquinho, porque eu estou tomando conta totalmente aqui do speech. Fala, Henrique, boa noite, obrigado.
Tudo bem, pessoal, boa noite. Para a gente é um prazer estar aqui com vocês mais uma vez. Como o Jorge mencionou, hoje é um dia bem importante para nós, né, porque marca uma sequência que a gente tem tido aí de discussões, né, webinários sobre o tema, e hoje com uma edição especial trazendo um pouco dessa visão externa também, né, das pessoas que hoje estão gerenciando preços ao redor do mundo, estão vendo diferentes realidades, do ponto de vista da pandemia, mas também do ponto de vista da estratégia, da tecnologia, dos processos. Eu acho que vai ser bem legal. A gente vai fazer uma coisa diferente hoje, né, porque ela vai ser conduzida em inglês, então vocês fiquem à vontade para eventuais perguntas que tiverem ou entendimentos, mandarem para nós aqui, né, Jorge? A gente vai estar, na medida do possível, aí, traduzindo e respondendo, tá? E, enfim, desde já, muito obrigado a todo mundo que está com a gente aqui, e é um privilégio para a gente ter vocês aqui. Só um detalhe que é importante é que a Doc Consulting, Doc Pricing, que está proporcionando esse evento, era até um mês e meio atrás a Dr. Trade, né, Dr. Trade, e a gente fez uma mudança, né, de branding, de marca, e hoje nós temos a Doc Consulting com as suas 3 unidades de negócio, né, Doc Pricing, Doc Trade e Doc Business. A gente está aqui hoje para falar do tema de precificação, que é o foco da Doc Pricing aqui.
Muito bom. Legal, muito legal você ter lembrado disso, né? Foi exatamente... acho que uma semana antes da gente ter começado com a série de webinários que a gente lançou a nossa nova marca, né? E, bom, enfim, esse webinário de hoje, então a gente vai ter alguns convidados especiais que a gente já vai trazer eles para a sala para conversar com vocês, tá? Então, a partir desse momento que a gente vai convidar o pessoal para se juntar, a gente vai mudar para o inglês, tá joia? A gente vai mudar para o inglês e vai chamar aqui o David, o Michael e a Kelly da ActiveViam. Hello, Dave. Hello, Michael. Hello, Kelly.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're fine, thank you. Thanks very much for being here with us. It's an honor to have you guys here participating in our webinar series. We've been doing this for 4 weeks in a row, and this is our first international webinar in English. So it's very good to have you here, and I'd like to ask you guys to present yourselves to the audience. I have already told them in Portuguese your company, what you do, but it's a very light introduction. So please help us understanding who you are, what you do, help our audience understanding a little bit of you.
I guess I'll start. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Lynch. I am the Retail Solutions Manager here at ActiveViam. My main role is to help our clients solve some of their biggest data and technology problems with our software. In a prior life, I worked for all different kinds of retailers. I worked for an off-price retailer, Ross Stores, a mass market retailer, Macy's, which you may have heard of, and also a luxury retailer, Saks Fifth Avenue, in many roles, including buying, planning, replenishment, pricing, drop ship. So I've really seen it all, and I'm here to help our clients solve their biggest problems with technology.
Great, thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Michael Bevans. I'm the Industry Solutions Manager here at ActiveViam. And prior to joining the team, I basically worked in pricing for about 12 years or so, on the business-to-business side, as well as the business-to-consumer side. So I've worked for some international companies, Canon, those that are more online, like WebMD, and some do-it-yourself home improvement type organizations. Basically, my main role here is to bridge the gap between pricing practitioners and our software. So I kind of help them see exactly how our software makes their lives and pretty much their jobs easier.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is David Owen. I'm Director of Sales in our retail practice for ActiveViam. I have been working in technology for the last 25 plus years with backgrounds in pricing, supply chain, logistics, analytics, and big data before it was termed big data. So been working in this space for quite a while, helping companies understand how to best leverage technology and as Michael mentioned, to help make their lives easier and to increase margins, revenues, and market share for those companies.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me tell you a little bit about logistics, right? What we intend to do. We're going to have a short discussion about some pricing concepts in the beginning. And then our guests from ActiveViam will present, we'll have a presentation for you, okay? They're going to present a little bit of the services and the results they bring to companies, and also they're going to bring us some case studies, okay? And during that, please use the comments that you have available to send our questions or make your comments. Even if you don't feel comfortable in asking in English, you can ask in Portuguese and we will translate to them, okay? No problem at all, right? And then after the case presentation, we're gonna go back and have a little discussion about the effects of this pandemic in pricing dynamics in the market, and our guests will talk a little bit on how they are perceiving that in the United States, probably in Europe also they have some cases to share. And so that's more or less what we're gonna have here, probably 1 hour and 15 minutes of webinar, right? Any doubts between us here? No? So,
just one comment, George. There are some comments here asking you guys to speak a little bit slowly because it's going to be helpful to understand. I know it's different, I know, but if it's possible, okay.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you.
It's important also to tell you that we met David and Michael and Kelly. We met them when we were visiting the NRF in January in New York, where it's probably the world's biggest retail fair. And we went there to collect new technology trends and bring here to Brazil to our customers and to our audience, and was there, and we were looking for companies that have this technology side and expertise to help companies in Brazil to develop, to better take decisions on pricing, to make better and faster decisions on pricing. And then that's when we met them. So since then, we are talking to each other to see how we can work together. And we decided to do this webinar as one of the pillars of this approach that we have. So it's very, very good to have you here. And Hilei is gonna start showing some concepts that was the concept that led us to go to the States and look for companies like yours. It's with you, Henley. You can go on.
Okay. Before starting the presentation, it's only one slide, okay, for us to have in perspective. But it's important to show that we have, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we have three different units, business units in Doc Consulting. We have Doc Trade, Doc Business, and the unit that we are today discussing is Doc Pricing, that is focused in this matter, okay? And then I have one slide here that's provocative slide, okay? So the main challenges for pricing optimization. We believe that independently of the channel, of the segment, of the customer, we consider that there are three important pillars to be considered when you are imagining to enhance your price strategy, okay? The first one is process, strategy, governance. The second one is people, culture, mindset. That's very important as well. And the third one is tools and technology, because sometimes it's very important to have this new technology to be able to implement the process and to be capable, for people to be capable to implement these strategies, okay? So the three pillars are very important, and the link among them is going to be helpful independently on the segment. And then I prepared here two perspectives comparing industries and retailers for you guys to have a different dimensions regarding this difference, okay? So for example, for industries, the challenges are price strategy definition, okay, that we can consider price elasticity, competitors, pricing matrix, and other important discussions that are inside this important bullet. The second one is that go-to-market alignment, okay, because one industry has different channels to be linked with the same idea to implement the idea, the strategy of pricing. To understand the margins of the retailers, to understand how they apply the methodology to form the price. Then consider taxes. Here in Brazil especially, taxes impacts are very strong. Freights, mapping, for example, the other and other parts of the structure. Commercial policy definition, okay, discounts, terms. This matter important a lot in the price execution. And then trade promotion impacts, of course, how to monitor market prices and a reward system to ensure that the company is focused in profitability. But the context of industry are, for example, annual price list update, okay, or twice maybe. But to manage it, it's very different compared to the retailer. Less than 1,000 SKUs and several links in the GTM chain to be organized, as I mentioned, okay? On the other hand, we have the retailers with different challenges. Why? Because the first one is the strategic positioning. How can I position myself to deliver value to the customer? For example, the cheapest one, the more innovation that we have is going to be different your image, or you can position it, for example, with services. So we have to define your strategic position before talk about prices. The other situation is the cost plus mindset, the markup mindset. That's very important to be challenged to move your strategy forward. The other situation to be considered is the price war. It's very tough discussion in terms of retailer. Tight margins as well. Okay, so 1 point or 1% is very important for retailer, and as well difficulties to manage speed, amount of data, and operational systems. The context is the price changes are sometimes monthly, sometimes weekly, or sometimes daily changes. More than 15, 20,000 SKUs, including in many stores, sometimes 100 stores, sometimes 200 stores, to be organized. It's a cube, very, very difficult to be managed. And in this situation of the retailer, the technology is very important because it's almost impossible to manage it manually. So this is the idea. I would like to have a warm-up, an opening for you guys to have a perspective and to think how can you consider it to put in your strategy. Eu vou falar rapidamente em português para que, se alguém não entendeu, o resumo da ópera é: a gente tem, de um lado, a indústria com dificuldades e o varejo também, né? E ambos têm os mesmos círculos centrais a serem considerados, né? Que são processos, pessoas e tecnologia. Mas é muito difícil para um varejista que tem muitos dados, muitos SKUs, muitas lojas e uma mudança muito frequente de preços, de gerenciar isso manualmente, tá? E com, por exemplo, ferramentas de Excel, alguma coisa do gênero. E é nesse sentido que eu convido, então, o pessoal da ActiveViam para mostrar o case onde eles consideraram diferentes formas e diferentes tecnologias para gerenciar isso. So, guys, I finished my part, and I would like to ask you, to invite you to start your presentation considering these points. And first, my first question, Dave, do you agree with my points?
So yeah, so we definitely agree that there's many different challenges within the process of looking at your pricing strategies, how you implement those, the workflows that are involved in the process, and then the overall corporate strategy, right? How do you align the corporate strategy all the way down through the various processes? So it's not just about technology, it's not just about process change or pricing changes. It's how you can better manage and collaborate through those processes.
Great.
Very good.
And when you look at retailers, and you have a couple of retailers as your customers, as your clients, are there any different challenges they face other than the ones we kind of presented here? What are the most important challenges you see your clients facing?
Well, I mean, I think you really analyze the situation very well. There are certain things that might be specific to different industries, but generally speaking, it's really about changing the mindset of a lot of people in the actual organization, kind of figuring a way to leverage their institutional knowledge as well as bringing that into the technology to kind of make it more like a synergy instead of just having one to fix the other. But you do see, and you'll see later on in our presentation, you know, that cost plus mindset, issues around kind of like data, the amount of data you can pull in, analyze, that sort of thing. That's a very common problem that we see.
All right. Maybe we should jump into your presentation and that will be clear. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as we begin this process of talking and introducing who we are at ActiveViam, I wanted to give a quick background on who we are before we jump into the case study. So at ActiveViam, we've been around for a little over 15 years. really bringing together the knowledge and experience from many different industries. So working with technology around understanding how to best visualize information, how to analyze that information, how do you begin to make decisions based on the various strategies that you have, and then the process of executing, auditing, and understanding that feedback loop that you have to really learn and grow through the process. So we have done this with many different clients around the world. So we have offices in Asia, Europe, and the US, clients in all of those continents. And we've really been pressing the limits of what in-memory technology can do when you talk about taking massive amounts of data set, massive amounts of information, and beginning to make sense of those and then executing on that process. Our clients from the retail side are very distributed across the different aspects of retail. So when you look at Fouvert, it's auto parts, so massive amounts of SKUs, very fast moving, understanding inventory levels at a very minute level, all the way to our grocery retailers, where price image and understanding when you're a premium retailer, how does that affect your pricing and how does that affect the way your customers see you, all the way through to customer loyalty, understanding how do you make sure you're keeping your best customers and attracting those new customers when they have such an easy way of switching to a different brand or to a different store. When we look at typical results around this, you see really in two main areas. One is obviously the financial, right? The ability to increase margin, the ability to increase revenue is extremely important in any project, in any process. But the other one that's extremely important to understand is the efficiencies. So the ability to take long drawn out processes, to take people's time and begin to focus them on value added processes. So understanding how to take, and in this case, they were able to reduce their entire repricing process from a day down to 30 minutes. We were able to co-present at NRF, which George mentioned earlier, with Antoine Deveau, who from Intermarché, and he really talked about this idea of taking the information that they had and being able to accelerate that process, and that becoming the competitive advantage through the process of reforming their how they do their pricing. One of the things that we've seen in many of our customers and through the industry, and this chart comes from Gartner, is this maturity curve of going from kind of the beginning process of pricing all the way through the advanced process. And we really see this happening mainly in two areas, and this is what Enrile was talking about at the beginning. There's the technology side. Starting from kind of the beginnings of working in teams, very manual, very gut feel, up through using Excel to simplify the process, but then make it more complex from the ability to keep things versionable, to be able to share them, using BI tools to help this, and then really starting to move into number 4 and number 5, which is starting to use rule-based and AI and algorithmic processes to really drive you towards a more automated process that is optimized. The other side of this is really what Dot Consulting brings to the table, and that is the process and understanding how do you begin to move your organization through these all the way through to the large business benefit, starting with cost plus, using the basics to help you get started and move forward. Then moving towards more competition-based and being a little more outwardly focused. But then as you start to move up the maturity curve, you really start to look at being value-based or customer-based in the sense that you're starting to adjust and manage it based on things that are at higher levels than just what's my cost, what do we have to get out of this, what is my competition selling at, getting away from those price wars and competition to really more of a leadership role in the process. So we see this working up the maturity curve as being a very important evolution in the process, but it really takes technology and it takes a consulting or experience to really help companies move through this process. Now I'm going to turn it over to Michael to walk us through a use case.
All right, thanks a lot, David. So as David mentioned, I'll be walking you through one of our use cases here. And I'll start out with some traditional analysis and pricing methods that you're probably really familiar with. I'll also kind of explain to you how our solution helps speed up that process and allows you to price and reprice as many products as you want in a matter of seconds, and how that helps you stay ahead of your competition. Well, I think just have to move on to the next one. Oh. All right, so one of the things that is really, really common for an analyst is someone comes into the office, or in today's day, maybe sends an email and says, hey, sales are down. Can you look into why? So what's usually going to happen for an analyst is it's going to be a long day compiling spreadsheets and pulling data from tons of different sources. And it's going to take a long time before they can even have a chance to analyze it. So once you've analyzed everything and you want to start making your pricing decisions, what you want to change, unfortunately, there's often too many people involved in the pricing decisions. That kind of slows down the process, making it difficult to keep up with your competition. On top of that, I've been guilty of it myself. Like I said, I was in pricing for a long time, and you start to rely on your own personal pricing experience instead of following the data. What results there is sometimes you can make some decisions and you leave money on the table. And that's a big problem. So kind of like you guys mentioned before, cost plus is very, very common. And the reason why is it's simple, it's easy to use and execute. You take your cost, you pick your markup, you end up with your price. Now, this is easy, but you end up forgetting about your competition here. Now, on the other hand, you have a lot of people who only focus on their competition. And what ends up happening is you say, all right, competitor X is priced here. I want to be slightly lower than their price. But you're failing to realize that they're doing the same thing to you. And this just ends up with a race to the bottom and nobody makes any money. So that's the old way. What I want to do is kind of walk you through a process that I like to call the pricing funnel. And that's basically what our solution helps you do. You start at more of a high level where you look at your category, department, something like that, drill down to the product level so that you can make some really quick, easy decisions on what you want to reprice. From there, our platform allows you to classify these products into different groups. Here, these groups are going to be based on various sensitivities, and I'll give you a couple of examples. A very sensitive product might be something where your customers know exactly what the price would be. Bread or milk or something like that, all the way up to low sensitivity products. These might be some less common items where a customer has no idea off the top of their head what the price should be. Now, once you have all of this information at your disposal, I'll show you how you can build pricing strategies that are unique to each group. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you remain competitive and profitable at the same time, which I'm sure you guys have a lot of struggles with. And from there, I'll show you how you can change your prices really quickly. So starting at the top of the funnel, like I said before, the traditional way of doing things is compiling spreadsheets and data from all these different sources, and it can take hours and hours. Our solution does something different. It pulls all of your data from all these different sources into one easy to visualize dashboard. Here you're able to determine what percentage of your products actually have matching competitive pricing data. This is super important because you want to make a decision on how you want to change your prices for a category based on a large sample size. If you're making a decision based on a few products, you could end up making a really poor decision. You're also able to determine how you're positioned, both currently and historically, by looking at this dashboard. Now, one of the things that is a really cool benefit of our solution is you can quickly identify, you see that red circle there, which category your competitors are focused on in terms of what they're repricing right now. So this gives you an indicator as to which category is kind of heating up in terms of competition. From here, once you know that you want to focus on that particular category, you can drill down to the product level. That's the next logical step. And you see here in that red circle, what this is highlighting here is what your margin would be if you were to match your lowest price competitor. So if you have like a margin guardrail, let's say you wanted to, you have a margin guardrail of 8% on your products. You can see here whether or not these margins would be high enough to show that you have some opportunity to move your prices around. If it was below your margin guardrail, you might leave those products alone. Now, as you're going through this list, you see in the upper right-hand corner, there's a picture, and you receive a visual match of each and every product as you scroll through this list. This is super important here because an end user wants to know that they're repricing the right product. If you're working on a huge spreadsheet, oftentimes you'll see a SKU or a product ID. You might have some that are very, very similar. If you make a mistake and reprice the wrong one, you might end up with a huge discount on that particular product that you didn't intend on. And as you know, a lot of different sites out there, they pick up on all of these steep discounts. They spread that news out to a lot of their subscribers, and you end up with a ton of sales. So you end up with a high quantity sold, but you're taking a loss on each one. So this is a very costly mistake that you would want to avoid. Now, I've kind of run through the top of the funnel here. Before I move on to the middle of it, do you guys have any questions about how you would analyze your data here? Is there anything in particular you guys want to go over? If not, we can move on to the next slide.
Yeah, Michael, I think we can leave the questions to the end because people are, I think we don't have, oh yes, we have one question here.
Sure.
Okay, what are the main important tools but I think it's for us. What's the main important tools to understand, to discover the prices of the market in Brazil, to capture it? Okay, we can leave it to the end. I'm sure that I will answer it. For your presentation, for a while, we don't have questions, okay?
Okay, all right, we'll just keep moving.
Okay.
Okay, so moving into the middle of the funnel, like I said, you analyzed your data and you were able to determine which items you want to reprice. Now I'm going to show you how you can classify those products into different groups based on the sensitivity. So if you look at the left-hand side of your screen, you see those stacked bar charts. And what this shows you is how each product contributes to some very important metrics. Your margin, your revenue, your web visits. You can see that light blue individual item just on the left side is contributing to almost 40% of your margin. So you can quickly see a lot of things here. What our platform does is it takes these three very important metrics all into account to point out what your key value items are. From there, it automatically groups these products into those various sensitivities. You can see that in the red circle right there. Now, what this does is it provides you with a pricing strategy cheat sheet It gives you an idea of how many products are going to go into each strategy. And, you can start to think about what you want to do with these. The very sensitive ones, you might want to create a strategy that's highly competitive. The moderately sensitive ones, you might capture some margin, but not raise prices too quickly. And I'll explain to you why later. On top of that, the low sensitivity ones, you can build a strategy that allows you to capture the margin that you lost out on the very sensitive products. Now, before I move further down the funnel, I just want to point out our solution allows you to gain some additional marketing insights. What we do is we utilize data science to analyze your receipts. And what it's able to tell you is which products are driver products and which ones are complementary products. And what this means is, let's say you're going into a home improvement store and you were looking for paint. That particular product is what brought you into the store. It drives you in there. While you're there, you might want to buy some products that are necessary for you to use it, such as paintbrushes. So that's what it's telling you. It's giving you that customer purchasing behavior through data and not just based on gut feel. So now that you've analyzed your data, made your pricing decisions, and classified all your products into different groups, this is kind of where the magic happens, where you can build out your pricing strategies and then execute the price changes that you've made really, really quickly. So being that you already grouped everything into various sensitivities, you can start by just adding those groups into your first strategy. And as I mentioned before, you're not limited in terms of speed or capabilities like Excel, where you might have a certain number of rows that you could work with, or if you're trying to make price changes to a large spreadsheet, you spend most of your time staring at the bottom of the screen, watching it calculate, or kind of praying that it doesn't crash.
Michael, I have a contribution here. Julio, can you go back one slide or two slides?
Sure.
Yeah, here, because it's a very important part, and I will translate at the end in Portuguese, okay? But it's a very important part, this part, because as we mentioned in the beginning, the first challenge that a retailer have is to split the categories, right, in different roles in the business, and then it's the first part in category management to split it and to put in perspective different dimensions for the SKUs, for example, traffic builders or profitability SKUs or other things. And the tool allows us to put information here and to the machine understand this idea and learn with this idea, and at the end suggest different prices regarding profitability terms, consumer terms, competition terms. So this is the main difference comparing one simple cost plus strategy to put margin or one general margin for the whole portfolio and then split it. Pessoal, eu estou comentando com ele que essa parte aqui é muito importante, porque uma das dificuldades do varejista hoje, né, de um modo geral, é ter uma estratégia de dividir as categorias em diferentes papéis. Algumas são geradoras de tráfego, outras de rentabilidade, outras são destino, outras são conveniência, e a ferramenta, a tecnologia, ela permite, né, que com um aporte de estratégias novas, sejam colocados diferentes pontos de vista no momento que você está da sua estratégia, e isso vale para a indústria também, né? Mas diferente do ponto que está da sua estratégia, e a ferramenta ir aprendendo com isso e sugerindo concorrência, por exemplo, outras questões. Isso é meio que um ponto de divisão de águas de uma estratégia cost plus, de uma estratégia já mais avançada num nível de precificação. So, Michael, I was just translating, but I think it's a very important point, milestone, separating cost plus the other strategies, right?
Absolutely. And you'll see as I go through each strategy that you can create different rules, different parameters. For each one, it's not a one size fits all.
Okay. Michael, I also have a question for you. In the in the previous slide, the last two columns were like you are making a cluster in terms of which kind of category is that one product,
Yes.
and the other one is the sensitivity of the SKU, right?
Correct.
And did you mention that the sensitivity is calculated through data science?
No, so what I'm saying is there is a column there that's kind of highlighted in light blue, and that's your KVI scoring, your key value item scoring. What that is telling you is it's taking the products that contribute most to those three metrics, the margin, revenue, and web visits. And the more that it contributes to all of those, the higher your KVI scoring would be on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're, more like an 8, 9, 10, you're going to be deemed a very sensitive product. And you're not locked in right here. This is just how you can set it. You can change those settings as well, but you also have the ability to change those particular sensitivities. So for instance, if you're looking at one of the products where you have the marketing insights and it's a driver product, meaning it's a very important product, people come in for that particular one, you, the end user, have control over how you want to tag that. So if you deem that more sensitive than what our platform shows, you have the ability to change that and include that in your cluster.
All right. I'm gonna translate a little bit in Portuguese, okay?
Okay.
Então, o que eu entendi, pessoal, é que aquelas últimas duas colunas dessa tela que ele está mostrando tem duas informações muito importantes. Uma é Marketing Insights, que diz que tipo de categoria é aquela, se é uma categoria que é um driver de tráfego para a loja, por exemplo, ou se é uma categoria complementar. Isso é uma parte da equação. E na última coluna tem a sensitividade que aquele SKU tem de preço, né? Se ele é muito sensível a preço ou se ele é medianamente sensível a preço. E uma parte dessa inteligência vem da ferramenta, pela análise de dados históricos. Mas você tem total habilidade para ir lá e colocar algo diferente caso você tenha, enfim, tenha insights suficientes qualitativos ou tenha informação suficiente para querer fazer essa mudança. Então, isso me faz entender que é uma ferramenta muito fácil de manejar, né? I was telling people that the last two columns that you both have the opportunity to input a different set of sensitivity, and that it looks like it's very easy to manipulate. It's very user-friendly. Okay.
Very, very. You don't really need some intense kind of training to do this. And on top of that, just so you know, what our platform is great with is it's very flexible. So what we do, it's not like one of those softwares that you have to learn exactly how the software works. What we do is when we implement everything, we work with an organization to make sure that it works for their business process so that it helps people adopt using the software instead of, oh, this is too difficult to use, I don't want to be bothered.
Thank you. You can go on. Sorry for the interruption.
No. Anytime you want to ask a question, feel free to stop me. All right, so like I said, here is, did you have one?
Yes, just other question from Pedro Ribeiro here. I will translate it to you, okay? Mm-hmm. So I think the first one you have already answered, that does the tool allows us to put other information like Nielsen, like selling in, selling out, or store checking, some different informations to calibrate this. The first question is this, and the second one is a common that's for industries, for example, could be helpful to understand the time to get the price changes comparing selling in and selling out, because if you put these parameters in the tool, it can help you to understand the behavior of the SKU, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So I can definitely speak to the first one. So you can pull in any type of information that you want. Basically what our platform allows you to do is it's not just pulling in some spreadsheets and things like that. If you're connected to any sort of, any sort of Google Analytics, Nielsen data, any source that you have information that you want to pull in, you can. The whole point of this is instead of spending 80% of your time compiling information before you can look at it, what our solution does is it does all of that for you. So it's all there in one place. And the great thing about it is it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where you're talking about people and collaborating, and David mentioned it as well, is you have all of this information in one place. So you have one version of the truth. It's not like one department has this piece of information, pricing, strategy, analytics has this. Everybody is looking at the same thing, and they're able to make decisions all together, but quickly.
Bom, gente, então é isso. Ele está dizendo que a ferramenta ela permite que a gente colabore com informações, né, como essa que o Pedro trouxe aqui, e que isso também engaja o pessoal a colaborar, a se sentir junto, né, a equipe, o time, em participar dessa construção e se sentir mais seguro na tomada de decisão do preço, tá bom? Thank you, Michael.
Sure, no problem. All right, so David, if you move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we mentioned that we're starting out our first strategy here, and this is for your very sensitive products. So this is an example of one of the rules that we have, which is your competitor alignment. So here we're trying to be very competitive. You can take a look at all your different competitors and say, I want to be slightly lower than my lowest competitor's price. And you can see at the top, clearly this leads to some negative revenue and margin metrics. So these are going to act like loss leaders. Now, nobody wants to take a loss on anything, but one of the benefits is that it ensures that your price perception among your customers remains a positive one, because they're not going to get that impression that all of your products are overpriced if you make a mistake here. So moving into your second group, this just highlights the fact that I believe Amrile mentioned, not doing everything the same way across the board. So here you can create a totally different strategy with different rules and different parameters. So in this particular strategy, here you can capture some additional margin, but one of the things that's really important about some of the rules that we have here is, yes, you want to capture some additional margin, but you don't want to raise your prices too quickly. If you think about it, a customer walking into your store, if they are used to seeing like a particular price and you change that price drastically just because you set some margin rate rules, that can really upset somebody. That they feel like you're kind of taking advantage of them. It's kind of like walking into a store and like maybe you wanted to buy kind of like a can of Guaraná. And normally the normal price is maybe $2, but somebody makes a crazy change to like the margin rate, or they just make a mistake and randomly it's $4. You're gonna think these guys are crazy, so I don't wanna come back to this store. And not only do you lose that one sale, but you may lose a customer. So that's one of the benefits of all the different rules that we have here. Now, if I draw your attention to that big red circle at the bottom of the screen, what this is our price construction chart. So a lot of different tools that you'll see kind of operate like a black box. You have your initial price, your final price, but you have no idea how you arrived at that final price. This is really great for not only analysts, because you don't have to spend all your time justifying why you came up with that final price to your manager. And it's really great for supervisors, managers, directors, because you can actually take a look at what your analysts have done see exactly how they arrived at their final price, and then you can approve those prices faster. As you know, the faster you approve your prices, the faster they can implement those prices, and the easier it is to stay ahead of your competition. So last but not least, you're working on your low sensitivity products here. Now, what this allows you to do, since you have a lot more flexibility here, you can run as many what-if scenarios as you want. And what I mean by that is you can, in a matter of seconds, go back in, change your rules, change your parameters, and reprice everything in seconds. Like I said, with Excel, usually you're limited in terms of speed and capability. So here, you notice that all along we had, some negative revenue, negative margin. Now what you're doing is using the margin rate rule, using a nice healthy margin, and you're able to get back into a positive kind of metric here. So you boosted your revenue, you boosted your margin. And this goes to show you that by building 3 simple, unique strategies, you're able to be competitive where you need to be and highly profitable where you want to be. So it's a win-win all across the board. Now, all of this is great. It's easy to use, but it really wouldn't mean all that much if it took forever for you to execute your price changes. But luckily, and this is something that I wish that I had in previous roles, where it used to be a really difficult process to change a large amount of prices. Here, you can do it with 2 simple methods. You can download a CSV and upload it into your system, or even easier, you can connect our platform to yours and your internal systems via APIs. So once a manager or somebody approved prices with the click of a button, you can push those prices out to your internal systems in seconds. So you see, basically, not only do you save a bunch of time on analysis, which leaves you a lot of time to run different scenarios, make smarter pricing decisions, and implement those price changes faster. But what it ultimately does is all of those things help you stay ahead of your competition and make more money. Now, I know I showed you a lot of different things, so I wouldn't be surprised if you have some questions before I pass things along to Kelly for our next use case.
Okay. Michael, there is a question here from our group in Telegram. It's how should we balance pricing strategies with the overall company ROA strategy?
Right. So, I mean, that's one of the things that's great about our platform, is that you can kind of take your goals and your targets and you can build your strategies around that. It's not saying, okay, we're just going to be competitive. You have to, we talk about price image or price perception. You have to say, what do I want my customers to think of me from a pricing perspective? Are we a discounter? Do we price at a premium? Are we always within the market? So what this allows you to do, it has so much flexibility to it that you don't have to, it's not one of those solutions where it's just for people who want to be competitive or just for people who want to price this. It has that capability to do basically anything that you want and balance those things.
It's very linked to the value proposition, right?
Yep.
Então, obrigado aqui, foi o from Ivan Mendes. Thank you, Ivan Mendes. Ivan, eu não sei, vou só rapidamente aqui, acho que vocês entenderam, mas ele está dizendo o seguinte, né, que a estratégia do seu posicionamento, se você é um retailer, né, um varejista, que é posicionado como preço baixo ou como de inovação, enfim, e que isso é importante para você se conectar com os seus clientes, né? E aí, o preço, ele é um grande termômetro para mostrar a sua proposta de valor para o mercado. Então, as estratégias de preço são muito conectadas com a estratégia global da empresa. Isso vale para a indústria, enfim, para qualquer segmento, tá bom? Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Okay. George, do you have some questions there?
No, I'm okay. I was impressed by how easy it looks like the step-by-step is. That's great. That's really great. Of course, it's something that anyone that is interested in knowing more, we can provide a specific presentation for them. Here, just a short and quick presentation to show that the process is easy. The process has a logic that is built into the retailer needs, and also that allows the retailer to maximize both sides of what they need, to be competitive and to be profitable, which is kind of the science and the art of doing pricing through a very good tool, right? And that's great. I think we don't have any more questions. I think in the next, if you want to close your part and call Kelly, that's okay. You go on.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hi, Kelly. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry. Waiting for my slide.
Okay. Are you sharing your slide? You ready?
David should be.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so before we jump into my section, just a little bit of a preface. I want to talk about a few different pricing use cases that aren't necessarily concerned with dynamic pricing. So there are other pricing strategies that you can use that aren't necessarily dynamic, and that comes by way of the promotions and markdowns. How are we optimizing our markdowns so that we are getting the most revenue? And also our promotions, the goal of promotions is to obviously increase our sales. So how can we manipulate our pricing through promotions and markdowns to improve things like revenue, margin, brand image, and also customer experience? So we're going to look at a couple different things, but the first thing that we're going to look at is actually a dashboard that I built live in a demo that we did for a prospect. And one thing that I love so much about our software is that it's very easy to use, especially in an ad hoc situation. So when you are trying to do reporting or maybe pull some information that isn't something that you would normally look at, it's very easy to build a dashboard. So the dashboard that we're looking at here displays our margin by store. So just a quick run through on the screen. On the top, we have our total margin. In the table below, we have our margin by store. And then in the table in the bottom right, we have our heat map, which is showing us our margin by store, but also in a map. And I love this map because it's very easy to track different trends. So if you have any sort of local tastes and preferences that are affecting your margin, this is a really beautiful visual representation of how that's happening. So I also love our dashboarding capabilities because they're so easy. I made this screen in about 60 seconds. The prospect loved it. And you don't need any technical experience. So if you do not code, it is no problem. It's a drag and drop kind of situation where you can really build very effective custom dashboards. And I also joke with my team here in New York when I was actually working in all of these retailers, when you do ad hoc work in Excel, if you make something really awesome that's very useful to the team, I used to actually lock my Excel files so that other people wouldn't be able to use them and take credit for my work. So with our solution, as you have people that are moving in and out of roles, you can actually cut down on that friction that happens between roles, which I was a little bit responsible for when I was working in the industry. And the next use case that we're going to talk about is markdowns. And I think a really important thing to talk about with markdowns is that the point of them is to get through your inventory as quickly as possible at the lowest markdown. But at the same time, you don't want to hang on to inventory. You don't want old inventory on your shelves, taking up space, looking cluttered. It's once the inventory starts to get old, it's very obvious to the customer. So what's also difficult with markdowns is that if you aren't making them at a location-based level, you can be leaving a lot of sales and margin dollars on the table. So we really believe that in order for our clients to improve revenue and margin, making these really granular decisions is the way to go. But the problem with that is that granular decisions are obviously very hindering on your time and your capacity. So that's where we really lean on computers to make these super granular decisions. Specifically in the United States, we have a lot of variation by region. The West Coast is very different from the East Coast. So if you're taking markdowns at a product level just across the board in all of your stores, customers are really responding to those products differently in different locations. But again, it's difficult to ask your analysts to make those kinds of decisions because they can be thousands and tens of thousands of decisions that you quite frankly don't have the time for. So what our solution does is, sorry, if you can go back to the slide, that would be really helpful. The next one. Thank you, yes. So here on the screen, we have a table that shows each of our products at the location level. And there are two very colorful bars that you're looking at. This is what we call a margin inventory, or a markdown inventory index and a sales inventory index. So an index of 100, an inventory index of 100 means that your inventory is at the average across those product location, across the products for the locations. If it is above 100, that means that you're overstocked in your inventory. And if it's understocked, that means that you are understocked. And we use the inventory index in tandem with the sales index. So if your sales are outpacing your inventory, that's good. That means that you're selling through your inventory on average at a greater pace than you're holding your inventory. So with those two metrics, we have an algorithm in the demo that tells us, that basically makes these markdown decisions for us. So do we need to increase the markdown? Do we have to hold the markdown? Do we have to liquidate the product? Are there too few units on the floor? Or is it an initial markdown? Is this the first markdown that we need to take in the step? So with our KPIs, we're able to apply an algorithm that will tell us how we want to manage these markdowns. So now what we're able to do is empower users to be more strategic. When we let the computer make the really granular decisions and allow our users to be more strategic, that's when we can start to uncover more margin and more revenue. To the top right of the screen, we have our KPIs, which is showing our totals of how much these markdowns are going to cost. And then at the bottom, we have this really beautiful graph. I love the rendering of this. The yellow represents our margin percent, the yellow bars, and the blue bars represent our markdown percent. And then I think the color might be a little difficult to tell, but the purple line represents the level of our inventory. So we can really start to see that inverse relationship of how our margins and our markdowns are related, and also how our inventory comes into play. So we can really see where the customer is responding at those different product location levels. So if we move to the next slide, we can see here that in the graph on the left, the inventory is only slightly moving down as we're creating our markdowns. And on the right, we have a very sudden and drastic drop. So if I was looking at this as a practitioner, I would say that the graph on the right is absolutely how we want to be running our business. We want to be moving through that inventory at a quicker level. And we can really start to understand how the customer is responding to those different markdown levels and not just blindly putting our products in a markdown cadence. So this next screen, we're going to talk about the promotions. In this screen on the left-hand side, we have a list of all of our products. And these products are listed at both the category level and the product level so that you're able to group products and make decisions more quickly. You don't always want to do promotions at the lowest product level. Sometimes it's better to just make the promotion at the category level. For example, if you wanted to put all denim on sale, you could easily do that at the category level. So again, what I love so much about our platform is that you can be really dynamic in how you make these decisions, and it's not a one case fits all, which is really lovely. And in this table, we also have a sales plan, which tells us how we're tracking against how we said that we were going to move. So if our sales are lagging behind our plan, what we need to do is put in higher promotions to make sure that we're meeting our sales plan in as many categories as possible. So, and also we have an algorithm that tells us what to do there. So we can, by how we're doing with the sales plan, the system will come up with a promotion that is more helpful in getting you to that sales plan. And also in the screen on the upper right-hand side, we have our KPI totals, again, showing how much our promotions will cost. And at the bottom right-hand side, we have a graph that is showing us the x-axis is showing us our weeks, and the y-axis is how many units that we've sold. So if you look at those two lines there, we can see that there's an inverse relationship between this purple line and this red line. And what I love so much about this screen is that, you know, it's really difficult in retail to be making decisions on such a granular level. But if we don't understand how our products are interacting with each other and just treating them as separate entities, we really aren't leveraging our assets. So say, for example, the purple line, the one that is above in the screen. If this supplier is potentially having an issue with inventory and they won't be able to ship, what we really want to do is push up the red line and pull down the purple one. So that way we're giving the customer another option when that inventory ultimately fails to hit the floors. Or conversely, if we're thinking about it from a vendor give back perspective, if you have any sort of margin agreement with your vendor, and let's say we have a margin agreement with the vendor, the red line, the line that was below, what we really want to do if this vendor is providing give back is push up the red line and pull down the purple line. So that way we are actually safeguarding our margin. So when I was at Macy's, I worked in the private label section, and I sat next to someone who did the designer iteration of my private label. And we always had an inclination that our products had an effect on each other and that our promotions had an effect on each other, but we never had any flat out data to show how our promotions were conflicting with each other. And we were sitting right next to each other. So I love this screen because it's just really applicable, and it brings out the really important information of how our products are interacting with each other, which is where we can uncover a lot of margin and revenue. And then this screen here is showing how we make those custom promotions. So in the screen prior, there's a plus sign, you click this, and this comes as a pop-up. And what I also love so much about our platform is that it's very flexible and that the end user always has the control of what's going to happen. So yes, we make recommendations on what, or the system makes recommendations on what it thinks is optimal. But as we know, retail is detail, and things are constantly changing, and the nuanced information sometimes computers miss. I think COVID-19 is a perfect example of some nuanced information that I'm sure a lot of computer algorithms weren't able to take into consideration. And that's really when the end user, when the practitioner needs to take control of the situation. So this is the pop-up for the promotions where you can customize them, what the promotion level is, the type of goal that you'd like to reach, whether it be revenue or margin or units, and also the length of time that you would like that promotion to run for. So in conclusion, we're able to really empower our end users to make these really beautiful ad hoc presentations that are very easy to put together in seconds. And also we're leveraging the intelligence of the computers to make very granular decisions for our markdowns, allowing our end users to be more strategic. And we are also doing that same thing with promotions.
Kelly, do you have another chart to show?
I'm sorry?
Do you have another chart to show?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was incredible. I mean, as I mentioned before, it looks like your system, your platform covers all that the retailer needs. Promotions, inventory, markdowns, margins per store. I mean, and everything looks easy for the end user to manipulate, and that's great. That's great. Thank you. I think we have a question here. I think Julio is going to show us one interesting question about the system and the. Let's wait a little bit, otherwise I will leave. There's a question here from our audience, Misael. It says, does the system tell us the better price? Or do we need to analyze the insights and decide manually?
Yeah, so the system, it really allows you to develop it based on your workflow. So if you have a very hands-on group that needs to evaluate and analyze the changes in the market and changes in the product, then they can be very hands-on. If you want to create more of an automated process that really allows you to kind of set it and forget it, it will allow you to really have those prices become very automated through the process. So, you know, we wanted to show in our presentation that our system is definitely not a black box where you set some algorithms and then it spits out whatever price it wants to. It really allows you to adjust it based on the strategies that you have, both from a corporate level and from a team level going through the process.
Good, good. There's another question. Enio used to work for the industry. Technical question. I imagine that larger retailers have structured data systems that allow an interface with ActiveViam more quickly, but how can you work with small and medium retailers?
Yeah, so really data is data. So whether that's a large volume of data or a small volume of data, we allow you to bring it in and create the cubes that really allow for teams to slice and dice the data, whether that's one team member, one person managing it, or a large team. And so we're really able to scale at those levels. I think the other thing that's important is we have partners similar to Doc Consulting that do things like competitive data, data enrichment. I think we mentioned Nielsen and some of the other data enrichment companies. So we have the ability to not only bring the platform, but bring in partners that can help with both process and data enrichment, so that companies that are smaller, that don't have access to large amounts of data, can then begin to take advantage of all the data that is out there on the internet.
Great. Let's see if there's any other questions. Another one from Enio. If you have the flexibility to work with all customer data, and if it's necessary to prepare the information before inputting it into the system.
Yeah, so we have a very flexible data model. Everything from pulling in through CSV files, APIs. We do have the ability to connect with systems. So, as part of an implementation process, we would work with companies to understand what are the inputs, both internal and external, and what are the outputs. So the ERP system that you're working with, the CRM system, all of the planning systems. So as part of that implementation process, we would create those connections to your systems that would allow us to both bring in and to execute data through your IT ecosystem.
Great. Very good, very good. I think it was a great presentation, but if anyone that is listening to us has any doubts, need to go into more details, need to look at those screens with more details, because sometimes it's fast for everybody, please contact us and we can arrange that for you in an individual presentation. I would suggest, Henry, what if you think, if we move to talking a little bit about the effects of the pandemic and the new normal for pricing. Do you agree?
Yes. Just there are two previous questions from Arturo and Robinho. I will cover them, trying to wrap it up to go to the next phase. Okay. The first one is, could you tell us in percentage and importance of using statistical analysis in price decisions in our projects? And then the second one from Robinho Santos is how to consider what's the good time to make these changes. So we can mix these two questions in one. How do you guys think about it?
So Enrile, help me understand. So you're looking for when is a good time to make these changes, and then I'm not sure I understood on the percentages. What are the percentages of? I think I missed the point on that first question.
Okay, this is the question.
Oh, here. Okay.
It's a mix, right? If you decide using data, right, at the right time.
Yeah.
You have historical
Yeah. So I think the important thing is that we don't, even though we're an analytical company that provides this platform, we also know that human interaction, so the collaboration of teams, and then the knowledge that the pricing agents, the knowledge and the talent that the people have is extremely important in the process. So what we like to say is we're more of a collaborative engine that allows you to use analytics to help support your teams. Michael mentioned the efficiencies of being able to do more with less time, more in less time. And that definitely helps people use that time for more value-added processes. So I don't know if there's a percentage of how much should be statistical versus human. I think that really depends on the process. But we do think it's a good mix of both, not just a black box analytics.
Yeah, and just to kind of like piggyback on what David said, it's kind of like you're leveraging the knowledge of the people in your organization and giving them like a super high-powered tool along with that, because there's just so much that a platform can do without some sort of additional knowledge brought into the equation. It's really a total combination right there.
Yeah, and I think adding to that, while we absolutely believe that statistical analysis is really important in making data-driven decisions, looping back to what we'd mentioned earlier about COVID, there were a lot of companies that were getting pinned for things like price gouging because they were just blindly relying on their pricing algorithms. So we really believe in a blended approach, where you are, yes, using statistical analysis, but also other rules-based strategies that Michael had covered earlier.
Yeah, we can just metaphor here that, you know, if you have, for example, one retail have more than 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000 SKUs, using an Excel spreadsheet, for example, to put just one account, and then you can copy and paste forever in the list, or you can start to apply new ideas and draw knowledge, and then the tool will accept and learn, and then you can enhance, because it's very difficult to think that how to manage 10,000 SKUs using one per PowerPoint for each one, right? To understand, to discuss. So it's very important to draw new technology, to go faster and to be smart in decisions, right? Bom, gente, só traduzindo o que eles estão falando aqui, das perguntas que vieram para fechar esse bloco, né? Como o Jorge falou, é que é o seguinte, né? Para você melhorar a tua estratégia e ser mais rápido e eficiente, é muito difícil você abrir um PowerPoint e discutir SKU por SKU, seja como o Michael apresentou na ideia do preço base, ou como a própria Kelly trouxe, falando das promoções, dos inventários, dos descontos, e tudo isso para calcular na munheca é muito difícil, teria que ter uma equipe muito grande, mesmo assim ia ser difícil de ser ágil, né? Então, eles disseram que não tem nenhum percentual de comparativo entre humanos e máquinas, enfim, mas é um misto das coisas, né, que você precisa ter as duas coisas equilibradas para avançar e ser mais eficiente, com isso trazer mais rentabilidade e assertividade no preço, tá? Traduzindo, acho que é isso aí. Thank you. I just translated.
So, should we go to talk about the COVID-19? Yes, can we? You have another question?
Let's put masks, right?
The idea, thanks for the presentation, and now we know that people will connect to us to get more information about your system, and then we make sure that we connect them with you through us, okay? And I mean, I think we should take advantage of being together and kind of ask your perception on how this pandemic has affected the dynamic of prices in the market. I mean, we have been doing webinars with Brazilian executives from retail and industry, and more or less they told us that the smarter thing to do during the pandemic is not to change many things on pricings, because it's a logistics crisis, it's a health crisis, and if by any chance you're selling more or selling less, it's not because of price, it's because of other factors, and also we saw that at the retailer's side, somehow they reduced the intensity of price promotions. They reduced the intensity. They did not eliminate price promotion. They maintained, but they reduced the intensity because somehow they were understanding that it was not necessary to cause any peak on demand, since there are also some logistic issues affecting the industry because of the pandemic. And I'd like to ask you guys if you saw the same thing in abroad, or if you saw different things, and so that our audience can understand a little bit what happened outside of Brazil during that time.
Okay, I think I'll kick this one off because I really agree with a lot of the things that you said. Yes, anecdotally, in my own grocery store, I definitely was seeing less promotions than I normally would. And you would expect that because the volume of shoppers is so much higher. But also, I think what COVID is going to bring on is it's going to bring on a huge investment in technology, because what's leaving a lot of retailers behind right now is that they can't respond to how quickly this situation has been evolving. And that's where the technology investments are going to come in, because we can't have another situation that completely upends the business and not be able to respond in a way that benefits our revenue margin and also our shareholders. I think ultimately that retailers will understand that they need better products and better platforms to make better decisions.
Great.
Yeah, I think also it's important to, we talked earlier about price image, and that is how pricing affects the customer's view of that retailer. When you go into a store, if you see a price that is very competitive, then you assume everything in the store is very competitive. But if you walk in and the first thing you see is a very high-priced product, you're going to naturally assume that that's the way it is in the entire store. So one of the things that Michael showed during the pricing strategies was the ability to limit how much fluctuation there is in your price strategy. And I think if we think about at the beginning of the quarantine, there was a lot of, at least in the US, there was a lot of what we call price gouging, raising the price very high to take advantage of a situation where people were buying more product. And it gave a very negative image to those companies. If you could keep guardrails around that to where you do have the ability to take advantage of certain demand in the consumers, but you can limit it to the point where you don't end up in a price gouging situation, it's definitely going to help you win over customers that you're very interested in their well-being, and still have the ability to gain some margin where you can in a normal situation.
Okay. What we saw also in Brazil is that, of course, this situation caused a lot of changes in shopper behavior. One of the changes we've been seeing in Brazil is people choosing stores that are closer to their homes. In the past, before the pandemic, they would cross to another neighborhood or to another side of the city to look for promotions, to look for stores that typically have lower prices. But now, because they cannot circulate, because they are afraid of getting the virus, they choose the stores close to them. And then they are they are enjoying the fact that they can have this convenience, and also they are building in a relationship with those stores. And one of the questions that we have after the pandemic, are they going to go back to look for price promotions? Or are those stores that also learned how to improve their relationship by adding value and not by lowering prices? Oh, that will be the new normal. What do you think about that, and what are you seeing in your country?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we find here is there's been a huge shift from going to some physical stores to online. So you see a lot of digital sales really increasing at a high rate. So it remains to be seen whether or not that's going to remain. I think it all depends on the type of customer. You have to know what your customer, or what type of customer you have at your store or in those particular neighborhoods. You know, do you have cost-conscious customers, or do you not? Also depends on what type of products that you sell. You could see different industries have had, I've seen a real uptick in terms of their sales, while some things that might be deemed non-essential is what we call have seen a downturn. But one of the things that remains to be seen is to see how they handle, kind of like what you said from a logistics standpoint. You know, a lot of different people are going to the online channel as opposed to different stores, but it remains to be seen if stores, companies can actually handle this, because they're taking a huge hit with, you know, shipping issues and costs like that. Their margins are definitely shrinking, and I'm not sure if it's going to stay that way forever, but it could be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Guys, I think thinking of this new normal, that's the crystal ball, right? But one thing that it can certain to be is like the digital channels will grow and will stabilize in other level, right? And as well, the retailers are looking for the idea to have a omni-channel strategy or multi-channel strategy. And one situation to manage inside this situation is that the price is going to be, we have several alternatives to understand and to be very careful managing different channels regarding the same label, like the same flagship. And as well, this image, independently on your competition, you have to think about yourself to establish a good strategy, right? So this idea leads us to take advantage of the technology and the data to get connected with our customers. So I think that the new normal, the legacy is going to be in this direction, right? And then the conversation we had, like the points of Kelly have presented, the point of Michael have presented, the strategy that David have covered, I think we have many rich terms to consider in the new normal, right? Do you agree, guys?
Yes. So, you know, I think one of the things that we've seen is that a lot of the different service levels are extremely important. You know, companies prior to the pandemic were talking about things like delivery, so grocery delivery or product delivery, and then they were talking about pickup. So there were a lot of things that were starting to happen prior to the pandemic that people were beginning to look into. And I think the pandemic has really accelerated that process. So if you think about some of the stores that are now pickup only, where we're picking it up at curbside is the only way to get it, or through delivery only, or online only, you're starting to see the importance of these different channels and understanding the cost of those channels, right? Can you give a full service with delivery sale at the same margin or the same price point that you were able to do it in a brick and mortar in a store? And so I think one of the things you're going to see as all of these different channels become necessary as opposed to just additional, I think you're going to need to have a better understanding of the cost of each of those channels, how you manage the prices for each of those channels, and then what products are available in those channels. So that collaboration and management, so that it's not just the gut feel. We think we can do pickup for the same price as in-store. Do you know? The data will tell you what's there, and analytics will tell you how to best manage it, and then you can execute on that process. So I think managing all those channels is going to become a have to now that the pandemic has brought them to the forefront. It's how you manage those that's going to be the game changer in the process.
Adding to your comment, for example, Archimedes Torres here has a comment that it's very connected. For example, more than beyond the digital, people are valuing the time delivery, the product availability. So this matters, right, for the customer. and then the price will just, you know, it's going to be linked to the services. So this is the whole idea. So every time we need this kind of channels, we have different challenges to face it, right? So
right. Well, and I think if you think about the example that Kelly gave, I mean, even though we talk about price as being what our system does, or the price optimization, the ability to understand inventory levels and how to match those inventory levels to your price, right? If you can begin to look at, you know, as you know, when you have an overstock situation, you can adjust your price based on that. As you begin to get to an allocation standpoint where you have trouble getting product to the right place, it's not just about that price point. It's about how do you manage all of that planning process, getting the inventory to the right place. We've talked to many retailers in the U.S. where they basically send the same inventory to every store, regardless of sales history, and then they end up with not enough inventory in one place and too much inventory in the other. That's not necessarily a price problem, but at the end of the day, it hurts your margins and it keeps you from being effective. And so, you know, our system not only helps with that pricing process, but it helps with the planning process, which, especially in today where some products are available and then the supply chain is constrained in others, really understanding how to do that and manage that in an accurate way is extremely important.
Yes. Yes, guys, everything that's good, you know, sometimes comes to an end, right? So we have 1 hour, more than 1 hour and a half, and we are very, you know, pleased to have you here today. I'm gonna have a quick closing in Portuguese, and then we come back, ok? Bom, gente, eu estou agradecendo o pessoal. A gente tem mais de 1h30 de webinário, e foi um desafio para a gente legal. A gente, assim, sabe que essa questão de fazer inglês, às vezes, é complicado, porque nem todo mundo, né, está habilitado a entender a língua, e, enfim. Mas, dado a nossa pandemia e a oportunidade de trazer esse pessoal, a gente preferiu fazer assim. E como o Jorge falou, essa parceria que a Doc Pricing buscou, né, visitando, nós tivemos na feira da NRF 2020, e a gente visitou essa tecnologia, e a gente está trazendo uma parceria para cá, justamente para poder habilitar, né, o varejo e a indústria do Brasil, como outras que a gente vai falar, para ter condição de ter medidas práticas de evolução. E eu acho que esse foi o ponto que a gente quis trazer aqui para mostrar alguns exemplos para vocês, e que, às vezes, a estratégia, ela parece um pouco difícil de ser implementada, e que são exemplos claros de que foi importante você ter uma primeira estratégia e a ferramenta tem que responder à sua estratégia, e não o contrário, você comprar uma ferramenta para depois pensar na sua estratégia, tá? Então, qualquer dúvida que vocês tiverem, fica à vontade de passar para mim ou para o Jorge, ou enfim, qualquer canal de conexão que a gente tenha, que a gente vai, na medida do possível, responder, e se precisar de uma apresentação da ferramenta, ou enfim, de qualquer coisa que precisar, também pode nos procurar, que a gente está aqui habilitado para responder, tá? Muito obrigado por todos que estiveram com a gente até agora, obrigado pelo Júlio também, que está aqui nos bastidores nos apoiando, né? E eu acho que é isso, a nossa jornada segue, a gente vai ter outros encontros adiante, que a gente vai estar anunciando aí nas nossas redes sociais, mas desde já eu agradeço aqui a presença de todos. Jorge, você tem algum comentário para a gente dar um agradecimento para o pessoal?
Não, acho que você cobriu tudo. É só para reforçar que quem ainda não segue a gente no Telegram, no nosso grupo, né, ou no YouTube, para seguir, porque por lá a gente vai estar trazendo, vai estar entregando muito conteúdo para vocês. Além dos webinários que a gente conduz e comunica pelo Telegram, nós também vamos começar a fazer algumas... eu chamo de one-point lessons, de pequenas aulas de pricing que vão ser disponibilizadas por lá. So I was talking our audience that to to follow us on Telegram and on YouTube, because we are going to start providing one-point lessons on pricing for them. Not only the webinars that we do live, but also some recorded material for them. And guys, thank you very much. I think it was wonderful to have you. It was very, very important to show how many things we can do with the technology when it's available and when it's built to be simple, and at the same time, simple and effective. So thank you very much for showing that for us. And I'm going to give you the word so you can say goodbye to our audience also.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time and allowing us to be on. And please, any questions that you have, either today or in the future, please let us know and we'll be glad to follow up. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. We really appreciate the opportunity. It's great speaking with you guys. If you have any questions, reach out to George and Enrile or connect with us on LinkedIn. You should be able to just send us a connection request, and we can always answer some questions for you if you use Google Translate.
Michael.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and Michael did well on Portuguese, right? R$4, R$2. It was great.
Hey, I try. I did my best. I didn't want to butcher it, but
you're qualified to come to Brazil.
Hey, perfect.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Hope you have other webinars like this to keep doing this strategy of giving the opportunity for our people to have access to content, high quality content, ok? Pessoal, muito obrigado. Boa noite a todos. A gente vai parando por aqui. Até mais.
Obrigado, gente. Valeu. Bom jantar a todos. Thank you. Bye-bye.